I suppose maybe a little bit of background first. So what are your experiences with delivering blended learning in the electrical field?
Well, I've got quite an extensive background in blended learning in electrical training. My first experience or contact with it was in the Royal Air Force when I was part of a team that implemented some blended learning for our electrical apprentices. That didn't go too well initially, and I'll talk to that later. From there, then, when I was lecturing at university, we used to use blended learning mainly as the peer groups to communicate with each other. And then later we've implemented blended learning. I project managed it through the College of Electrical Training. So I've got quite an extensive background in blended learning.
Yeah. Could you just give us a little bit of an idea of what's changed over that period? I suppose maybe when you started up, what you tried and have found later on perhaps another approach is better? Or
I think the steepest learning curve for me was a realization that blended learning isn't e-learning. E-learning is a vehicle to blended learning, but it's not the be-all, end-all. When we first implemented blended learning, we went too far down the e-learning route. And the problem we had was we had a lot less interaction with the students. We didn't get the feedback from the students, and we weren't providing students feedback. And we were trying to do it all online as a replacement model rather than a reinforcement model. Mm-hmm. So we took it then, we used it to replace the instructor, had to pull it all the way back, and a realization, as I said, that e-learning isn't the be-all, end-all, and you need the mentoring, you need the face-to-face, you need the homework, you need the quizzes, you certainly need an LMS system that isn't just paper-based resources. You need interactive media on there, whether it's DVDs or whether it's interactive quizzes or question banks. They're vital as well.
Okay. You touched on an interesting point there, Carl. You said originally you were trying to replace the teacher, and then you started talking about how you hadn't been able to do that, and you obviously realised that electronic resources don't replace a teacher. What's the role of the teacher in a blended learning classroom?
Well, the role of the teacher, it all depends what model you're going to use. If you're going to use a reinforcement model, the instructor is there to deliver and to utilise blended learning as a resource in the classroom, so that whether you're using a video or whatever kind of media you're using, the instructor can either pause it or move away from that and interact with the students and get their feedback from it. Also, with the tasks, the role of the instructor in the classroom is to facilitate the peer learning, because each student will learn at a different rate. And to have a truly pedagogical approach, you've got to interact with the students and see what their needs are, as well as what the needs of the instructor are as well. So if it's a reinforcement, he delivers, he facilitates, he tutors, he supports, he mentors. If it's a replacement model, it's important that the instructor is there on the other end. A lot of people believe that using blended learning, they can use less instructional resources. It's not the case. It will neither extend nor will it reduce the amount of time your instructor is going to use. It just means that they've got a student at the other end of a webcam rather than in the classroom in front of them. We're moving down the road towards video streaming our lectures in our lecture theatre. And just because we'll have one instructor at the front of the class to possibly 200 students doesn't mean that we're not going to need a team of 3 or 4 instructors behind the scenes answering questions, providing feedback, and interacting with the students.
Okay.
Yeah, as I say, if you're going to go down a replacement model, you still need the same amount of instructors to facilitate, support, mentor, and feedback is paramount. I've made that mistake personally in my early days of blended learning, and if you don't provide the student feedback, they're not going to be able to progress until they realise either what needs to change or what needs to be supported.
If there aren't very big savings in terms of teacher hours, can you tell me what some of the other benefits you found from implementing a blended learning structure are?
It's accessibility to the students. The students don't need to be in the class to partake in the learning, especially with our regional students. We've got regional students as far north as Port Hedland or Broome, and as far South as Albany. And the students who use the interactive learning, you've got to remember that blended learning is only suitable for about 20% of learners. So you're not going to have an uptake of students who want to do self-paced learning across the board. You can use it as reinforcement in the classroom for that 80% who don't want to do self-paced learning, but you've got to support the ones who want to use it as a replacement tool. So we found the benefits of it are the students can partake in a lesson and not actually physically be there, especially if work demands that they can't get back in from a fly-in, fly-out roster. You've also got the ability for a student who hasn't been able to attend college because of a workload, that they're not disadvantaged and they can use it as a catch-up tool before the next time they arrive. So there's a lot of opportunities to use blended learning and for it to support what students do in the college. As I say, we don't use it as a replacement model. We use it as a student-centered approach to support student learning.
If I could just make a little bit of change of direction again. How do you see blended learning fitting in with competency-based learning? Are they sort of two sides of the one coin of personalising a learning plan, or are they sort of a little bit at loggerheads?
No, they go hand in hand perfectly. Competency-based learning is all about the student taking ownership of their learning. And as a student is deemed competent, they should be able to progress. Now, if you look at blended learning is also about a student taking ownership of that learning and using it to the best of it as a resource. So competency-based learning and blended learning go hand in hand. It's all about the LMS system. If you've got a good LMS system, the student can progress through the competency-based learning at their own pace. And what we've got to remember as well is that's to allow them to have extra time as well as to go through it quicker. Competency-based learning is about when the student is ready to move on. And that's why the MAPS program is such a good program, because it allows the student to progress at a rate that they're comfortable with, whether it's faster or slower. It's a pure competency-based system.
Sure. One final question from me, Carl. What are the main benefits and challenges for teachers in moving to a blended learning model? I know you've already touched on elements before, but just anything else you'd like to add?
Well, yeah, but you're quite right in asking the question, because as from a teacher's perspective, they need the support of management. If you haven't got the support of management for the teacher or the instructor, then it's going to fall flat on its face. You've got to have the professional development there. The instructor has to have the time to be able to practice using the resources in the classroom, because it's a new tool. And if you haven't got the interactive resources in the classroom, such as interactive whiteboards or projectors or video players, and especially IT resources in the classroom, then the instructor is going to struggle. So people think that it's going to be you're going to get objection from the instructors. It's not that. It's more of a culture change. You've got to change the culture around how we deliver learning, and you've got to provide the instructors the support and the professional development to ensure that they feel comfortable, ready to use these tools in the classroom.
All righty, thank you very much for your time. I think that's everything I wanted to cover. Is there anything you'd like to add at all, and any topic to do with blended learning before we go?
No, costs a lot of money. Yeah, look, it's an expensive tool, but it's a worthwhile resource to invest in. And if it ensures that we have an increased completion rate, then it's worth every penny.
Fantastic. Carl Copeland, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks very much, Juan.